How's it going there, fight fans? It's your boy Joey G from Wrestling Headlines. We are back, and we are joined today by a very special guest. He is the very uber talented Matt Cross. Matt, how you doing today, brother? Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. A pleasure indeed. This coming Wednesday, MLW Fusion Alpha, you got a big matchup coming with Mr. nZo. What can fans expect out of this match as we head into Fusion this Wednesday?
Yeah, sort of expect the unexpected, right? I mean, you have one guy. We have completely different experiences within the professional wrestling business. Completely different. I mean, here's a guy that the entirety of his knowledge and perspective on our business is within one, in my opinion, small bubble. And then you have a world-traveled guy that has seen wrestling from a global perspective like no one else has ever seen it via 29 different countries. And let's see how they clash. Again, bringing completely different philosophical views, completely different skill sets, completely different ideas about what this business is. So again, what a rare opportunity to see those philosophical clashes, styles clashes, everything else just come to a head.
I totally agree, man. I mean, I was going to say going into it, you are no just spring chicken. You are a seasoned vet who's traveled all around the world, worked multiple different companies, even worked several companies within a single calendar year. And we're talking big names here: NWA, MLW, Ring of Honor, all over the place. So I truly am excited to see this styles, this ideologies of clash happen on Wednesday. And I hope you are too. Now let's kind of pivot away from that. So, we're excited about this big match with nZo. You recently came back to MLW. What was it that MLW had that caught your eye in terms of what they could give to you that other promotions couldn't at the time?
Even now being a part of it, when I watch in the back and they're running the monitors, there's like a disconnect between what I see in the monitor and then what I live in the ring. The presentation is so clean and so professional. I'll be in the back and I'm like, what is this that we're watching? And it's the event that I'm a part of. And then there's a certain excitement because I'm like, wait, I'm about to go out there and it's going to look this good. They're just bringing a level of a professional view and a polished presentation of what we do. And I mean, look at the roster to have guys like, I mean, Alex Shelley is like a wrestling genius, right? And him and I are part of what I call like a martyred generation. So like he is a star in every single possible way. And not only is he a star, we're all indebted to him for what he's done to the wrestling business. And the fact that he's not a multi-jillionaire face of professional wrestling is insane. So to have a guy like Alex Shelley and myself and TJP all under one roof, I mean, you're literally getting some of the best professional wrestlers in the business within one roster. I mean, that's crazy. So it sort of speaks for itself. There's just a lot of excitement around that. There's a lot of excitement around the business in general right now. And I think MLW is a part of that rise.
Oh, I would 100% agree. And their rise continues to become more prevalent, more authentic in the very competitive wrestling industry. And it's like you said, there's so much experience just with those three names that you mentioned. But plus the fresh crop of young guys you have coming up, like new national openweight champion Alex Kane has got a lot of great potential. Calvin Tankman. These are some fresh faces in the wrestling industry that haven't been traversed and shown up in a bunch of other places. And I think it's what's really making MLW stand apart from the other promotions right now is having great literal professional wrestlers like yourself, like TJP, like Alex Shelley, and then you got your fresh faces like your heavyweight champion Hammerstone and your new guys that I had mentioned. Now, let me ask your thoughts on this one. This is a question I was kind of excited to ask you when I found out we would be talking today. What are your thoughts about MLW sort of adopting this Azteca Underground, sort of the spiritual successor of the cult favorite Lucha Underground? Because I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but you and this other wrestler, Son of Havoc, sort of have a lot of these similarities. And I just feel like it'd be interesting to pick your brain about how you feel about MLW kind of giving notice to this brand that was very exciting in the pro wrestling scene for the time that it was on TV.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is my opinion, but I think we revolutionized wrestling. I think as the years go by, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, certainly 20 years from now, only then will people have the perspective to look back and be like, holy crap. I mean, this genuinely changed everything. I think we're still too close to it to even really know. I think people have a taste of that, but they haven't fully bit off and chewed on what we did. You will never get a roster like that together again, ever. You had guys like Ricochet who had a WWE tryout and been told no. Same for myself. So you had guys with a chip on their shoulder who had been told no, who now were given a platform and were like, oh, okay, here we go. And we were trusted to do what we do. Our instructions were go have a wrestling match. The people filming it were told, film it. The guys writing it were told, write it. No one was micromanaged. Everyone was trusted to be the professional that they are. And lo and behold, we came up with a groundbreaking program. So it's so exciting. I mean, I just saw Ivelisse a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how much we miss it. Every time I see Cage, we talk about how much we miss it. Every time I see anyone from that show, we talk about how much we miss it. It was so much fun. So to kind of capture that spirit of what we did in the temple and kind of carry it forward is certainly exciting just to see a lot of those familiar faces who I haven't seen for a minute. And again, we all sort of were a part of something. So I liked what you said, like the spiritual successor. I mean, that's great. So to kind of try to recapture that spirit, every weekend someone will tell me that Lucha Underground brought them back to professional wrestling, which is the ultimate compliment. We were able to create fans through like a 45-minute action-packed program. It wasn't, here's an unpaid part-time job, get involved in this thing. With so much programming you couldn't possibly keep up. I mean, we made fans. We brought people to this thing that we love. So again, to kind of be able to hopefully do that again now through Azteca Underground and through MLW is great. What an opportunity.
What an opportunity. I mean, you guys truly anytime I've ever talked to anyone that was a part of Lucha Underground, the show that you guys put on was more than just a wrestling show. It was a program, it was an experience, and it was something that caught the eye. It would be the type of thing that you could easily show non-wrestling fans and they can get attached to it, especially with how fun and unique the stories were. I mean, we were talking about Aztecian gods doing otherworldly things. We had a gauntlet of power well before Infinity War. So you guys were way ahead of its time as well. So it's exciting that you're pumped about Azteca Underground, as most MLW and wrestling fans are. So we look forward to seeing what happens more there. Now, one of the champions that I did not mention, because I said there's a lot of new faces, but one of the old school faces right now of MLW is Tajiri. He holds MLW's middleweight title. Now, do you think because of his reputation in the industry, he's going to give that title a little bit more prestige? And do you see yourself challenging him at any point somewhere down the line?
I mean, from a personal standpoint, ECW was everything to me. The only reason we're having this interview, the only reason I'm involved in professional wrestling in any capacity, the only reason I care about any of this is because of ECW. That's what my friends showed me in 98, 99. I said, holy crap, what is this? I mean, I was a DIY punk rock hardcore kid going to shows. So when I saw ECW, I was like, oh, this is DIY punk rock. This is hardcore. I never even saw it as wrestling. It was, I mean, when you have New Jack jumping off a balcony, like bleeding everywhere while music is playing and the crowd is immersed in the action, I still don't think it was wrestling. It was, I was like, this is a non-audio format of punk. So I was instantly drawn to it. So all of those guys hold such a special place in my heart. Feuds like RVD versus Jerry Lynn, Tajiri versus Super Crazy, Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka, like those forever defined hardcore wrestling to me. The fact that I've gotten to wrestle most of those guys is mind blowing. I mean, I remember being at Heatwave 98 in Dayton, Ohio, the greatest pay-per-view of all time. And if you would have told me at that point, like, you're going to wrestle these, you're going to A, be a wrestler, and B, you're going to wrestle these guys, it's impossible to wrap your head around something like that. So Tajiri being a part of those 3 feuds and a part of those 6 guys that, again, forever will define hardcore wrestling to me, he alone is like, not to be Scott Steiner, but what, like 22% of the reason that I'm in wrestling, him alone. So, a guy like that's, it's unbelievable. One of my favorite moments of the pre-pandemic year, I think it was 2019, I got to wrestle who I consider my mentor, Ultimo Dragon, for Defy in Seattle. Tajiri was also on the card, and he came ringside and took photos. And someone took a photo of him taking a photo of me versus Ultimo
Oh my
in our
gosh.
14th or 15th match. And that to me is like, when this is all said and done, that's the picture I think I'll frame and hang up and be like, dang, sometimes we lose sight of these things. When you were 15 years old, you never would have foreseen this. So, I mean, I just, to have a guy like Tajiri involved in this day and age, of course, it's awesome. It's inspiring. It's rad. He's so cool. He brings this experience with him and this like prestige and name value and whatever you want to attribute to it. It's and like I said, just excitement in general. I mean,
Mm.
that's a legend, a mentor, someone I looked up to, someone I still look up to. And to have him in the mix is great for all of us. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's so cool to hear, man. It's even cooler to hear that you got to work so many times with your with an icon, with someone that you looked up to like Ultimo Dragon. Growing up, I was a team WCW kid, so watching Ultimo Dragon every week in the cruiserweight division was truly like a highlight for me. And honestly, even at that young age, watching someone that, didn't speak the language and didn't look exactly like everybody else, like was important for my growth as a human being. So that's so awesome that not only that he's someone that you look up to, but you got a chance to work with him and you got a chance to do it with Tajiri as your cameraman. That is truly a miraculous moment that you should frame. And we at Wrestling Headlines recommend that you do that. Matt, this has been wonderful. I have only one more question for you, and truly cannot thank you enough for joining me, Joey G, at Wrestling Headlines today. Um, you know, one guy who's kind of rising in the ascension of pro wrestling right now is a guy in AEW, and he was a former MLW star, and his name is MJF. But I want to ask you, how does it feel to know that you have got a marquee victory over MJF because you beat him at one of the biggest wrestling shows of the last several years, All In, which preceded AEW, and you got a very convincing victory over him. I know because I was there in person to see it happen. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, that's a bit of a bombshell. Yeah, I don't know. I can say everything and nothing at the same time. It's wild. What an experience. For me, that was a celebration of independent professional wrestling,
Mm,
something that I've dedicated the entirety of my adult life to.
mm,
I remember laughing about the experience at the time because a lot of people were like, finally, you get to wrestle for a big crowd. And I thought to myself, having done all these giant tours overseas in Italy and Spain and Australia with the Hulk Hogan tour, you know, I wrestled in Paris, France, in front of 72,000 people. It was the
mm,
biggest wrestling show that year, beating WrestleMania.
mhm,
So
mm.
maybe, with the exception of Cody Rhodes, I had also done a million of these giant shows.
Mm.
So for me, when people are like, "Finally, you get this opportunity," I was like, "No, no, no! I'm thankful that these other guys get this
Get the
opportunity."
opportunity. Mm.
Now, it was insane to do it in America, given because I was looking out through the curtain, thinking like, "Man, Spain is awesome, Italy is awesome," and there was a disconnect between like, "This is Chicago, like
Mm,
this is AAW, like this is freelance, like
mm, mm.
what?" And I felt like everyone that was there that day, they cast a vote. Like by buying a ticket, they had cast a vote. They're like, we want change. So for me, someone who has fought for that for 22 years now, what an experience. And I was like, this is great. Uh, I was the first match on the first season of Lucha Underground. I was the first match on season 2 of Lucha Underground. I was a part of Wrestling Society X. I'm the first match at All In. These aren't mistakes. These aren't coincidences. You have to put someone who is comfortable in that position to set the tone. And that's what they did, trusting me with someone who was new uh, as a veteran. And I really embraced that role that day. And what an incredible experience. I remember MJF being so excited because there was some murmurs of this might be something else.
Mm.
Now I might be a little older, a little more jaded. I've been promised, the moon every single 6 months for 22 years. So I was like, look, let's treat this for what it is. It will
Mm.
be one incredible day.
Mm.
And it was. I stayed awake that entire night. My flight was 8 in the morning the next morning. I didn't go to sleep because I knew when I woke up, it was a new day and that experience had sort of ended to some degree. And I
Mm.
was like, I don't want this to end. This is such a victory for what I have fought for so long. And yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Hopefully I can, sort of circle back to that or capitalize on that at some point. It is, ironic or funny that it's more or less hasn't been addressed. And I
Mm,
do, like you said, hold a clean victory over one of their homegrown stars, who, in large part got his, start through me.
mm.
And I certainly have a lot more to offer, and no one brings that global perspective to wrestling like I do. Like I mentioned, 29 different countries around the world. So a lot of people know a lot about a little. And they, wrestling is bigger than your city. It's bigger than your state. It's bigger than your country. I even look at, my idols and the coolest guys that I've met. And it's like the Stone Cold Steve Austins. And I'm like,
Mm.
does he know anything about main eventing in Moscow?
Mhm, mhm,
I think
mhm,
back to Tough Enough, and I think back to Bill DeMott, and I'm like, what does he know about wrestling in Colombia? And not to say
mhm.
that these guys aren't insanely knowledgeable and we shouldn't look up to them, but there's something to be said. We're well aware that every scene and every place is different, so they know a lot about a little. They're
Mhm.
they're they're in these bubbles without even knowing it, and I'm bringing in the South American perspective. I'm bringing in the Russian perspective. I've been to the majority, if not all of Europe. I've been to Africa multiple times. It's
Mm,
even when you say 29 countries, it doesn't even start to do what I've done justice, because I've been to all of those countries multiple times. You take
mhm.
somewhere like Switzerland, I've been there 6 times. So even saying I've been to 29 different countries doesn't shed light on really what I've done. And
Oh,
people,
sure.
there isn't even a context to understand it, because no one's more or less ever done it, except for
Mhm,
maybe like traveling NWA champions in the 70s or something. But we're so
mm,
far removed from that, fans don't even understand what I'm doing. It's good.
mm,
Like Lucha Underground, it's going to be 10 to 15 years, if I'm lucky, when someone is able to sort of look at the whole picture and be like, holy crap. Like,
mm.
that is the last pioneer. That's the last trailblazer. Like, he's living, breathing, and doing it right now. So, yeah, we're in the thick of it. I just had 16 flights in 16 days. I got back from Alaska 2 days ago. That's my second time to Alaska this year. Just it's genuinely insane, and there isn't even a context to understand it.
Well, it's truly incredible to see someone that's had so much travel, so much experience, also being so humble and so appreciative of all the opportunity and taking advantage of all the opportunities that you have taken advantage of. And truly, even as you were speaking about it, thinking about all of the pro wrestlers that I like, always liked watching growing up, having I feel like you're in a better position than a lot of them, because having that world experience and getting to meet different cultures of people and bring this art to different parts of the world multiple times, and truly understanding what the fan culture is like there, is truly a remarkable achievement. And that's a reason why my guest today, Matt Cross, is one of the pioneers of the pro wrestling industry today. And I hope you feel that way, Sarah. And again, I appreciate you joining us. Is there anything that you would like to plug besides Fusion Alpha this Wednesday, before we sign off here?
Sure. The best way to support me, a guy living, breathing, dying for professional wrestling, is visiting wrestlingisforever.com. I personally ship out all the orders. Within the past 16 days on the road, I was home for one nearly 24-hour period, and the entirety of which was me personally packing up orders and writing thank you notes. So I don't know if anyone's ever done something like that before. So if you really want to support, you know, this embodiment of the spirit of professional wrestling, the best way to do that is through wrestlingisforever.com, where I'm trying to bring together that worldwide perspective on this thing that we love and unite these cultures. I mean, what we like is weird. There's no other way to put it.
Mm.
But that weirdness transcends boundaries, transcends borders, transcends everything else. And you can drop yourself in the middle of Russia, some Cold War adversary, and you have friends, you have comrades, you have people that understand where you're coming from, that enjoy these same things. So to me, it's been very uniting, and wrestling's given me this opportunity and this experience to see life through a different lens. So I try to bring that perspective into what I do with wrestlingisforever.com. So if you haven't seen that website yet, please visit it, and thanks.
Of course, Matt Cross, the spirit of pro wrestling is what I'm going to be referring to you as. Thank you very much. God bless and good luck, brother. Okay.
Appreciate you.